Right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of our education seminars that the Investment Analyst Society holds in conjunction with the CFA, the Chartered Financial Analysts Association of South Africa. We do these not as corporate presentations, but in an effort to educate the industry and do a workshop in a learning sort of environment.
Afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon. How are you? No, I'm perfectly fine today. I must say, let me take this opportunity to thank the investment community for making the time to share an hour or so with the Supreme Audit Institution of South Africa. So what I thought we could focus on today was to give you three scenarios. One scenario is about what are the facts of the reports that we are currently dealing with and is topical since yesterday, because I'm sure that's what you may be interested in. The report that is looking at the results of government since as at the end of 2012. We're doing all this in order to have a rather excited and a confident public out there. That's why we're putting that whatever we do, we're doing it so that we build public confidence in the way in which the state runs, in the way in which our work is conducted, in the way in which the delivery of service is provided by the state. So we've got a niche in terms of promoting and facilitating the building of the public confidence. Our own category of what a good rating is in audit terms is a clean audit. And that has got to be captured in that green block up there. Anything short of that is not good enough to capture what the National Development Plan aspires for, which is a capable state. And on our side, we're capturing that insofar as the area of administrative capability of the state. Because we don't do anything else other than to assess the extent to which administratively the state is robust to continue to deliver services. So the big block of yellow in the beginning, which keeps making people to have the hope and the wish that they will be recognized. And we're saying, yes, we recognize that block, but to a certain point. Because that's the block in government, unlike in the private sector, that is categorized as financially unqualified, which is basically fair presentation has been achieved. But what our worry is in that respect is that fair presentation has been achieved under serious and difficult conditions of having to go through blood, sweat, and tears to correct misstatements in the books and records of government. So that's the context, just in case there's a technical interpretation of why we're creating our own terminology in auditing. That was a deliberate invention to make that distinction. The rest, obviously, you're aware of. Qualified is purple, and disclaimers and adverse is red, which we look at it the same as those that did not submit. The issues that are bothering us a lot in government is the way in which these 5 hotspots are being managed. Supply chain, I'm sure you've heard us a lot talking about these, where there's minimal improvement and no improvement in others. Issues of how we manage service delivery programs. We're not at odds with government to saying we're delivering services, we're making clear plans and clear guidance as to what the programs of government would be. We don't have issues with that. Always saying when those programs and plans get done and promulgated, they don't necessarily get supported by a system that checks that what has been uttered at the highest level of government, starting from the presidents to the premiers to the mayors, et cetera, is followed through to completion. Hence, we're saying When it comes to what is called predetermined objective, there's some improvements, but not good enough. 60% of them are mastering it, but the remaining 40% relates to departments that are closest to and have the biggest impact on society: education, health. All those things that are basic providers of services are the ones that have not as yet mastered the ability to connect the promise to the action. Hence, it's an issue that needs to be attended to. HR, human resources, still a lot to be done to professionalize the public service. I guess this is where I'll come back to you in terms of what role we can play in responding to these issues. The controls around protection of information that is in the systems of government, as well as making sure that access is only available to those that have got privileges. Normal stuff, disaster recovery, drills around disaster recovery, access controls. So that's the elementary kind of language we're talking about here. Okay. As well as I've made mention of the errors in the financial statements. Those are the 5 issues. The 5th issue, which is the misstatement in the financial statements, translates to the ability of government to also manage its fiscal stability a lot more elegantly. Because without proper financial records, without proper financial management, there's no ways you will know when you're getting into a ditch. Hence, we've heard of municipalities that have suddenly run into a financial crisis. Hence, we hear provinces that have had to have interventions because they now have a financial crunch. It's all coming and happening as a result of lack of robust disciplines around financial management and accuracy of those financial statements. I think now we have got a leadership at a political level that is beginning to respond to this message. But I'm saying this is step 1. We have not spoken about implementation. We're just speaking about the commitment and the will. And I hope that's the message you'll also walk away from this venue with, that we've got a leadership that is now committed to listen. We engage with the ministries at a minimum once a quarter. We're beginning to see the change of heart, the change of commitment, the seriousness to do something about these issues, but the ability is still a problem. And this is where, when it comes to that ability, we need to find a way to work collectively as South Africans. I think the Minister of Planning Commission has made this, together with his commissioners, very clear that the National Development Plan is not a departmental responsibility, it's a South African responsibility. There are many disparate ministries, including municipalities, that need people of your caliber. We've got what is called a forum of public sector audit committee members. It's something equivalent to what KPMG does in coordinating a similar forum for the private sector audit committee members. If I were to suggest a solution and a suggestion for your community, is to make yourselves available for such structures. And if all of you sitting here and together the peers that may not be part of this gathering today could have that at least as an objective to say, I participate in at least one audit committee of a government entity, whether it's a public entity, whether it's a government department, whether it's a municipality. Because this is where the skills are needed the most, and this is where the skills are least available. And government is struggling to attract those skills. We need to ask ourselves a question: do I belong to at least one, if it's many, that's even better, audit committee of a public institution in South Africa? So, colleagues, those are the issues I thought I should just put as introductory remarks to trigger whatever thoughts you have. I know it's early thoughts. It can be early thoughts because, you did not know what I was going to speak about. This may have come to you as a bit of an ambush.
when you don't have the right level of skills and you don't spend enough money on capacity building, or you don't outsource to the right sort of institutions, the actual cost maybe is a multiple of 5, 8, or 10, and maybe in some of the work you've already done, I don't know whether you have any statistics that begin to present that position, because I think people easier understand that than understand that if you hire a CA from the professional environment, they need to be paid R750,000 rand. That sounds like a lot of money, but the reality is that you are losing 2.5 million for every CA you're not employing, and the question is, how do you deal with it?
Yeah. Thanks very much for, let me take one question at a time so that, because I'm not jotting them down. Starting with the issue of the economic impact of all these observations. It's a discussion we had with the Minister of Finance about 2 years ago. And when he asked me that question, I said, I actually don't know, because that's not what we're looking at. But having given him that answer, I then went back to the office and said to the economists that we have, the Minister of Finance is looking for this answer. And therefore, we do have a project within the office that not only would be looking at these at face value level, but looking at how do we quantify these in economic terms.
Mr. Mbembe, at what stage does mindset change actually kick in your estimation, in terms of people who are working in different areas of government? When does that change kick in, and what is the trigger?
Yeah, that's basically the heart of the problem. This is about culture. How do we turn around the culture of the public service? And in our view, unless the one at the top changes his or her culture and then impress upon the rest to do so, we've noticed that that mindset change has never happened. But in every instance where we've seen a change at the top, I can give you a single example, every example of those institutions that have got sustainable clean audits. One thing that characterizes their environment is the culture of professionalism within those institutions. There's nothing else other than that.
And having been in the assurance profession for a while, my question is, are we seeing improvement or heightening of this world to actually have change? Or are we still having challenges, actually having that broad commitment to say there needs to be a change in will? From your perspective, have you engaged with all the stakeholders at both political and civil service level?
We started these conversations many years ago. And during that time, we speak to government departments, no one would listen to you. You make appointments, no one will honor the appointments. Last year, we made a deliberate decision to put in our action and request to government the availability of the ministers and equivalent across the spheres of government, at least 1 day, 1 hour, not 1 hour every quarter. We said that's all we want you to give us. It cannot consume and take up a lot of time in your busy diary, because I understand how busy you are. So that's what we requested. And in this report, we measured to what extent there's been a response to that request. So there's a figure of about 78% of ministers and equivalent that have at least been available for 3 times in a year. That for us is remarkable. Thanks so much, sir.
Yes, just if I can, on behalf of members of both societies, thank the Auditor-General and his staff for spending this time with us. I think it's great that in the spirit of transparency, they are reporting back to the investment professionals and the participants in the market. I think that's greatly appreciated. So on behalf of all of us, perhaps we can have just one final note of approval. Thanks so much.